and I am a Southern American, so please forgive me. Jimmy Janlén is who I'm introducing, and so Jimmy is an agile coach and a teacher, and Stockholm is his home base. And I'm just reading here his addition to coaching. Lots of things that he does here. He holds courses and seminars about all these things: agile, lean, agile leadership, agile adoption, large scale agile, team dynamics, large scale agile, team dynamics, and facilitation. So I'm not going to repeat those. You're just going to have to trust me on those. But yeah, we are very privileged to have Jimmy with us. And we talked briefly. Jimmy encouraged questions throughout the session. So you don't have to save them, but if you're not comfortable, you can put them in the chat. Jamie will monitor those, and she can speak on your behalf if you're not comfortable. So with that, Jimmy, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you, buddy.
All right. Where did it go? Here it goes. Cool. Super nice to see you all. Mark, oh, thank you for the introduction, Mark. When I look at your faces, I need to look down because my Zoom window is down here. So if I look weird, it's because of that. So I have my thingy going on here. All right. So yeah, super nice to be here. It's a new scene for me, this meetup. Oh, there's someone in the waiting room. Or is it too late? Is the door closed?
Nope, open. I'm letting them in.
So yeah, I have slides for 30-ish minutes, which are hopefully entertaining and interesting, but please shoot questions throughout, and I might reply to some of them immediately as they pop up. Others I might save to the end. So yeah, the title of this talk is called The Power and Pains of Autonomy, and I will try to kind of dismantle and offer my definition of what autonomy is, talk about the promises of it, but also the challenges of it. There's so many companies struggling with an agile transformation. But once you're done and you have all these beautiful agile teams running their own business, you're going to have a totally new set of problems. So it's not like everything is going to be perfect, just a different bag of challenges and different new bag of work. And getting autonomy to work is tricky. I tend to prefer to work with the young startups. I've spent many years at Spotify when they were younger. Now they're huge. I maybe wouldn't call them a startup anymore. Spent the majority of that time in Stockholm, but also in New York. And then we're working with other companies such as Kry and now Tibber. Probably not that familiar if you're not from Scandinavia or Sweden. Closed captioning. Oh, how will this work? Will I talk clear enough for the automatic captioning to work? Let's see.
Yeah, you will. It's pretty good.
And I prefer to work with young startups that already kind of having an agile mindset. I'm so happy there are so many people out there helping non-agile organizations transition to an agile organization. But I like to learn already now about the new challenges that do appear in this new environment. Besides coaching, I try to find time to write books, and I've created a deck of Jimmy cards to open-ended questions. And here's how to find me. Maybe you can paste the links. Oh, they're already in the chat. So I have a website where you can, read a blog and you can buy books. I have a YouTube channel. My preferred way of being contacted is on LinkedIn. Yeah, I offer courses. Remote in-house. I do some of these public ones. So if any one of these sparks your interest and you want to discuss them, please reach out. And I have a YouTube channel. I also have a YouTube channel, and I'm really proud of some of the episodes. I think they're really brilliant. Uncommon for a Swede to brag about himself, but here's just a few examples of them, and I try to ship one every month, roughly. All right, but enough about that. Let's talk about the power and pains of autonomy. And please use your fingers and type in the chat, because autonomy is one of those weird words. It could mean anything depending on who you ask. So I'm wondering, what does the word autonomy mean for you? What pops into your mind? We have if you're a doctor, autonomy means that the patient should be able to decide whether or not he or she wants that treatment. Is that it in our workplace? No. Aligned freedom, self-determination, sufficient. Aligned freedom. I like that one. Determination. I know what I want. Yes. So, and this is responsibility to decide how to reach a goal. Yes. Because it's such a powerful world, yet it kind of defies definition, and the definition is going to vary depending on who you ask. Yeah, I agree with all your comments so far, and I will try to offer my little bit lengthier definition soon. And because there are so many companies on a transformational journey, this is a post from LinkedIn that went viral last year, I think. So if we're in the transformation, we're probably doing a shift from just talking about profit to talking about purpose. It's about the shift from hierarchies of command or reports into a network of collaborating people, from controlling to empowering people to do the thing they find responsible. A shift from detailed planning and measuring success according to our ability to follow a plan to regarding work as learning and experimentation, from privacy, need-to-know basis to transparency. So this is a tricky journey depending on the starting point and the culture and the attitude of senior leadership, I guess. And so where are we heading? We're heading to this world, or we're trying to head to this world where we have autonomous, self-directing, aligned freedom, teams that do have a mission and purpose, but they collaborate to create something bigger together. So, well, one description of that future is that we have self-directed and self-organizing autonomous teams, but they're all working towards a shared outcome. We're trying to create something bigger together. So, guided by negotiable boundaries, I guess that's aligned freedom maybe, within enabling structures. So this is kind of putting words onto the goal, maybe. But in contrast, so I want to briefly contrast this with where we might be coming from. And the supportive organization, if that's the goal, let's start with looking at the traditional top-down organization. How could that look like? And I apologize for the rantiness and black of white of this kind of description. I hope I don't offend anyone. I'm going to move myself to the corner here. So, a top-down hierarchical, stereotypical organization might look like this. So we have a few people at the top, the steering board, that might think or have this mindset or attitude. For us, the big bosses, the C-suite, for us to be successful, we need to be able to make smart decisions and be in control. That's the path to success. And our tools for achieving this is by passing down decisions, setting policies, delegating power through budgets, and setting deadlines to help people focus, and not to confuse people. We might offer information on a need-to-know basis, and then we staff people to projects, making sure we have the most talented people working on the right things, and then we have a lot of people kind of managing all this, coordinating project management, and making the show run. And to be able to make smart decisions and to be in control, we gather reports and we harvest data. And when things don't go as expected, we demand clear paths of accountability. And in order for us to understand it all, we also require everyone to do it the same way, standardization. Otherwise, the world is too complicated to understand. All right. If you're an agile coach or an enthusiast, you might argue that this is a waste factory. This is a brilliant way to do a lot of unnecessary work. Such as multitasking, handoffs, delays, partially done work, fragmented ownership, resource optimization, and whatnot. Deep breath. So this might be a description of what we're trying to move ourselves from. So where are we heading then? So what is the overarching promise of Agile? Well, it depends on who you ask. But if you ask Jeff Sutherland, he says the art of doing twice the work in half the time. Okay, so we're going to be faster. But it's also the promise of being customer-centric, caring about the users and customers. It's a promise of where we continuously improve the way we work in the product. And we have a constant focus on the impact and outcome, not necessarily just the number of features we ship. And it's the promise of working in a team, of teamwork, of collaboration, of being able to influence our decisions, be part of setting our goals and figuring out how to accomplish those things, and ownership of how we solve problems, the solutions. And yeah, there's probably a longer list to this, and you might have your own reasons. So, but for this to work, we can't just kind of create autonomous teams and say, congratulations, you're now part of a team, and by the way, you're autonomous. Goodbye, have fun, good luck. That's the opposite of leadership. Then you're kind of just abdicating. So we need to create a supportive organization. So how could that look like? Well, for example, we have General Stanley McChrystal writes in his book, Team of Teams, effective adaptation to emerging threats and opportunities requires the disciplined practice of empowered execution. I guess that's a fancy way of saying we need to have self-organized teams, but they need to work in a structured fashion. They're not free to do whatever, okay? And then they say, he says, individuals and teams close to the problem, armed with unprecedented levels of insights from across the network, offer the best ability to decide and act decisively. So if we have teams with access to users and customers, and we offer transparency of data and context and information to them, they are gonna be brilliant and make beautiful, responsible decisions really fast. But then we have Donald states in his book Flow, for this to work, decentralizing control, which tool do you use? Yeah, I'm going to save that for later. Decentralizing control requires decentralizing both authority to make decisions and the information to make them correctly. Otherwise, people are just going to try their best but fumble in the dark. So how could this look like for an agile team-based organization? Well, first of all, we group our people, brilliant people, into agile teams. So small agile teams. They are cross-functional. They have all the necessary skills, self-organizing. They decide for themselves how to solve things and how to attack the problem. We have stable membership, so you're member of one team and one team only. Stable for at least a reasonable period of time, so you have a chance to figure out how to work efficiently together, and you have clear ownership over your own process, how you want to work, and also clear responsibility to shape up your work if you're shipping crap or poor quality. That's your job too. So your job might be to have this phone call in the middle of the night that production is down and you have to solve it. It's not someone else. And we have this word here, self-organizing, owns process and quality. So I'm going to come back to this. But to make one thing clear, autonomy does not mean, in any situation, do whatever you want. And that especially doesn't work in a work environment. And as Jason Yip, a former colleague of mine at Spotify, said, autonomy doesn't mean the freedom to do what you feel like. That if that's your, if you're saying that, don't tell me what to do, or don't say no, or don't put me in a box. We are autonomous. Well, yeah, sure, but there are boundaries, and someone stated there, aligned freedom. Because if that would be true, that means that's depressing. The devoid of meaning and shared identity would probably lead to depression. It's psychologically shallow and lead to depression, because I have to figure out what to do every single day. No. So let me offer an alternative definition instead. And this is, once again, autonomy in the workplace, in an agile environment. So working in an autonomous team means that you are feeling free to act, and you are free to act, and you're feeling free to act. So you also realize that, with all your capabilities to contribute towards a collective outcome. You think, decide, and plan together as a team within your boundaries. You work and learn together. You choose how to conduct work, how to improve, and are part of shaping your destiny. For me, this is more actionable. We can kind of take it apart and discuss its different components, but it doesn't mean do whatever you want. It means figuring out what can we do to contribute to our mission and the shared collective outcome of the department, of the company, of the organization. So typically, agile organizations tend to end up looking maybe something like this. So we have the people, but we have now put them together in teams. And the senior leadership, they tend to have a different attitude towards their job and what they need to do to make the company successful. And it might go like this. For the teams, not us, for the teams to succeed on their missions and in their work, they need us to provide clear guidance and support. So if we have the assumption that the autonomous teams, they do their best figuring out what to do next, well, how can they make responsible choices? Well, we need to offer them a vision of the future, clear priorities, what's our current strategic gambles, information and context, so that the teams feel empowered to make responsible decisions because they have a good understanding, and they are given trust to try things out. They're given trust to make mistakes and learn from them, but they're also offered boundaries within which they have freedom. And in order for the leadership to be able to support the teams, well, we have the teams, they request feedback and guidance. Sometimes they actually do need the opinion of someone else. They're expected to solve problems on their own, but there will be impediments and blockers they can't fix themselves. They might ask for resources or budgets or other kinds of support, or help to establish direct dialogue with stakeholders, with customers or partners. So it's a supportive organization built around the team. And we don't have the managers on a separate floor. No, they're close to the teams in the shape of engineering managers, product owners, Scrum Masters, and whatnot. And the top people don't tend to regard themselves as people at the top. They're just another team with a different purpose. But for this to work, for these teams to be able to execute responsibly, we need to put them in line of sight with the users and customers so that they can feel empathy with them. And we need to also give them the proper tooling and infrastructure for them to ship whatever they build to the appropriate platforms. And in order for the teams to learn, we need to offer feedback loops in terms of customer feedback and maybe all kinds of feedback so that they can know what to improve. So just saying congratulations, you're now autonomous, it's not enough. For an autonomous teams to actually be able to execute, they need to live in a supportive organization. So I briefly mentioned the potential benefits of agile. So what are the benefits and powers of autonomy? Well, I guess these are one way of looking at this is like Steve McConnell states. Study after study has shown that motivation probably has a larger effect on productivity and quality than any other factor. All right, so motivated people care more, are more productive, take on more responsibility and care, and put in more care into their work and their surrounding. Okay, cool. What creates motivation? I'm a big subscriber of Daniel H. Pink's drive. So factors, what he argues, the main factors of motivation are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy, our ability or how much we are allowed to influence what we do and how we do it. Mastery, ability to practice. Purpose, feeling connected to something bigger. I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So autonomy is, for majority of people at least, something that's truly motivational. But I don't recall who said this, but it could be put as simple as great people who do great things when being trusted to be great. Just, you don't have to make it more complicated than that. But it's also a lot of work because autonomy means owning it. So, and that means a lot of responsibility. So for us to really put ourselves into the driving seat and demand to be allowed to be autonomous and shape our future and influence goals, well, we need to have a clear access and a good understanding of the overarching priorities, the goals, the most important strategic work that's going on. We need context, information, and data, and a clear understanding of our constraints. Otherwise, we won't be able to be in the driving seat, and we need to ask for a co-pilot or maybe drive behind. And also, in order to make good decisions, we also need good feedback loops to customers, to data, to metrics, to whatever is needed for us to be able to learn from our actions and decisions. And this requires a lot of work. So some of these things the team needs to set up, others can be offered by the organization. But if it works, well, the evangelist in me says that, yeah, well, it's a beautiful way to mobilize brain power, to have faster and better decisions, and you have continuous learning and adaptation to whatever happens, because the control is with the people close to the problems and the users. You have clearer ownership and responsibility, higher quality because people have to fix what they break. Hopefully they figure out ways to be more productive and efficient, and you hopefully see more innovation and faster response to market changes and motivation and work satisfaction, and maybe you get more popular as an employee as well. But the way I see it, it comes with also a lot of challenges and hard work. One thing is the balance between, well, aligned, someone wrote here, aligned, thank you Edwin for that, aligned freedom. So alignment means there's some restrictions or things that should guide me in my decisions or freedom. So, and that's a constant balance. This is an illustration from a colleague and friend of mine, Henrik Nyberg. So if there's too little structure, too little clarity, well, we're gonna feel chaos. We're gonna round in circles, we're gonna create a messy architecture, we're gonna see stressed people all over the place. But on the other hand, if we offer too much clarity, too many processes, too many policies and boundaries, and then we're just gonna create a mess of bureaucracy, and it's just gonna suffocate any inspiration to creativity. Or, yeah, how about this? No, I don't have, whatever. Yeah, I'm just gonna do what I'm told. So yeah, and this is a constant balance, and the proper balance is gonna shift over time as you grow as a company, maybe, or depending on where you're at in your agile transformation. Perhaps in the beginning you need a lot of structure so that people know what to do and can be guided, and perhaps you need to remove it later. So yeah, too little structure creates some beautiful things. So too little structure can enable me to figure out, it gives me the freedom to figure out where and how to contribute the most. So maybe I can choose which team to be in, or exactly, I have the freedom to choose what problem to work on. Cool, that can be inspirational, could be nice. It's easy to rally around critical common goals. If we're not locked down into silos or squads, or there's a more fluid structure to everything, cool. If it's something urgent comes along, let's attack that. And I love this part actually. Structure can emerge when needed and then be dissolved. So maybe we have a cross team project. Well, then we might add a Scrum of Scrum for that thing for a few weeks. We might have a project coordinator and whatnot. And once we've solved that problem, that structure can fade away. The problem with structures that you the problems with roles and meetings and structures that you do create, however, have a tendency to survive. So if you invent a role, the role tends to get its life on its own long after the purpose is fulfilled or the problem has been solved. And yeah, people can work on what they're passionate about. So there are benefits to very little structure. However, I've seen this happening, especially in startups who don't spend enough time building the system and environment. You can see never-ending discussions due to lack of decision-making principles. It's just a constant strive for let's talk it through forever. Without clear structures on ownership or maybe final decision makers or stuff like that, you might see several competing hidden hierarchies of informal leaders, kind of competing against each other. To get things done, you need to have the connections. You're going to see politics playing a game. It's impossible to get a sense of progress or capacity, or I hope someone is working on that problem. I don't know. I don't understand how things work here. So there are, but on the other hand, as I mentioned, if we overcompensate on these things, we're going to get what people refer to as bad bureaucracy. So yeah, but even when you do find the balance, choo-hoo, the transformation is done, whatever that means. You have a set of new challenges. Now we have all these teams working together in a network of collaborations and relationships, and there's pair programming going on and sharing. Well, now it's a problem. How do we resolve cross-team decision-making and conflicts? If teams don't agree, they are autonomous. How do we resolve that? And who decides, or where do we decide? Is it in a meeting? We might see sub-optimization. The teams tend to focus on their needs and their problems, and they might create something that sabotages for others. Well, the team is the new knowledge silo. How do we balance that? How do we mitigate that? And when someone is under stress and don't see progress or is confused, how do we cope with command and control reflexes? Work with cross-team efforts. How do we coordinate and align between teams so we're roughly running in the same direction? And how about fragmented infrastructure? Because if every team is kind of solving their own thing, how do we create an ecosystem or an architectural ecosystem where we all can play nice together? So there's a new set of challenges and problems. So this is not this is not nirvana. It's a new bag of work. And this is, I think, where well, one important aspect of this is having clarity on boundaries and constraints, because we're all part in an ecosystem. We can't just go around that. Oh, we're autonomous. We're going to do whatever. Because our goal is to contribute to a shared outcome, a collective outcome, and we live in a we're part of an ecosystem. We live in not a town, but we live in a company with other teams and other people. When we do stuff or decide stuff, it's going to have an impact on others, and there's might be some legal requirements that we need to adhere to, or some business critical things that we always need to consider. Once in a while, there are going to be deadlines that we didn't discuss, but there's a kind of maybe a legal reason or a marketing window or whatnot. So there are parts we need to embrace the fact that we're not alone. We need to care for others as well. So that's, I think, where boundaries and constraints come in. So the way I see them, if there's too much of this, you're going to hear people complain about bureaucracy. But the way I see it is that this is tools for alignment, clarification of ownership, and making decisions faster and easier by clear decision mandates. And it should help us to not sub-optimize or to sabotage for each other or our business. But they can come in so many shapes. Some of this might make us shrug, but there are company objectives and roadmaps of different teams. We might have a cadence to the company, monthly, quarterly, whatnot. We can't spend as much money as we want. We might have agreed to stick to a certain set of tools or development languages, so we're not autonomous to choose whatever. Or maybe we are free to choose to try something, but then we need to kind of cater for it ourselves. So there are a lot of these things. Some of them are recommended. So yeah, we've learned that these are good habits or practices or tools to use. You should too. But if you find something better, awesome. Teach the rest of us. We want to know. Some are mandatory. No. Here at this company, we do sprint retrospectives every second week, period. Not negotiable. That might be a thing. Or no, C# is the thing. No Java here. Others are just guiding. No, many people use Miro, but you can use Trello or Jira or Microsoft Teams. So, no, optional. Maybe that's one of those things. But whatever you learn, share it. Cool. But having a clear, good discussion around these things is super important, because in order for a team to fully be able to execute on their ownership, they need to have a clear understanding of what do others expect from them, what does success or failure look like in the eyes of others, which systems or components or user journeys do we have ownership over, are ours to care for long term. What, if anything, do we have decision mandate over, and what boundaries do we have in the processes, or do we need to kind of honor? Because if these things are unclear, people and teams tend to assume that their sphere of influence, their domain that they need to be responsible over is way smaller than it really is. And if all teams are unclear about these things, you're going to see a lot of gaps, things falling between the cracks, stepping over each other's toes, and so forth. A lot of internal conflicts. And let me see, how's my timing here? I need to see if I want to skip this. No, I can do this and then try to wrap up. So the leadership on an organization needs to, in order to support the autonomous teams to flourish, they need to work with managing the system, not the people. So what does that mean? For many companies, this means transitioning from kind of hierarchies of directing people where the leadership or managers pushes down pressures and managers work into a supportive organization, where the leadership and managers offers clarity and guidance, facilitates and coaches, and helps out to resolve organizational blockers and impediments for the team so that they can be successful. So yeah, manage the system, not the people. Because autonomy means owning it. No, I'm going to skip one slide here because this is a repetition of what I kind of said. And then align. I just want to, last thing I think, or a few more things, but one thing I want to comment on. Alignment is not enough, even though every team understands the goals and company objectives and which problems to solve. Just being aligned is not enough. We also need continuous communication, and that's the cost of being agile. We replace bureaucracy and processes with communication. So we need to constantly offer transparency and talk to each other and give each other feedback. So as an autonomous, empowered team, this means a lot of work. For example, you need to know your stakeholders. You need to build partnerships with other teams and departments, and you need to offer them transparency. What are you currently doing? What data and insights have you gathered lately? What's your progress and forecasts about deliverables or dates? And you need to be transparent about your risks and challenges and problems that you see right now so that others might help you. And you need to ask for guidance, and you need to seek feedback and invite people to challenge your plans and roadmaps. This is the way we're thinking right now. Given our understanding of the context, this is our plan. Please help us be smarter, challenge us. And also on the mission and vision, this is where we're aiming towards. Please challenge us. We need your input in order to make smarter and better decisions. And this is a lot of hard work. I don't see any questions except the tooling. Should I jump to summary or should I go for a few more slides? Any opinions?
Anybody have any questions for Jimmy?
More slides. All right. All right. I'll run a few more and then we'll go for discussion. And yes, please. You're so nice. Thank you. So the leadership shift, this is especially important in the transformational stage, maybe. So leadership of an agile organization, they need to, well, they need to work on this. So the team has a lot of work, but leadership has too. The temptation to lead as chess masters, controlling each move of the organization, must give way to an approach as a gardener, enabling rather than directing. You can't yell at a cucumber to grow, right? No, you need to take care of the garden. So a gardening approach is, however, anything but passive. It's highly active. You lean in, you support, you challenge, you question. The leader acts as an eyes on, but maybe hands off, enabler, that should be probably marked super bold and red, who creates and maintains an ecosystem within which the organization operates. An ecosystem. So if we look at this list here of things a team needs to be able to succeed, resources and support, competent coaching, clearly specified authority to manage the work process. And for this to work, so one thing, for example, many agile organizations do is they default to trust. So, hi, I'm Jimmy, I want to do this. Cool. I assume you're a brilliant person and you have thought things through. Do it, thanks. Tell me how it went. If we don't start with trust, it's going to go, no, write me a draft, present it to someone, and then we're going to decide in this committee, and then maybe we're going to schedule a meeting, and then maybe, well, you'll get notified if your RFC, yeah, I'm not going to propose anything. If you start with default to trust and then take it from there, it's going to be so much easier and faster. But trust needs, I also need context and information. So you need to default to open, default to transparency. This is a picture from Spotify. This is Daniel Ek on stage. And they have several times a year, they have at least had what they call strategy days. This is just many examples of transparency, where the top leadership, the product people met to discuss what to do next or the next year, and everything was recorded. So a few days later, every single employee had the same level of access to strategic discussions and how decisions were made as anyone else. Another example of transparency is everyone's calendar is public. So I could look at Daniel Ek's calendar, look at which meetings he had over the week. And if I wanted to, I can make my own opinion on whether or not he spent his time wisely. So yeah, that's just 2 examples. I have so many more. We also want to create a safe to fail environment. We can of course create processes and roles and practices to ensure we don't make mistakes. That's an approach, but it's going to be super slow, and yeah, not much learning. So we want to have an environment where it's safe to fail, and once we do make mistakes, we don't blame. We have postmortems and see what we can learn, and we try to make it easy to recover from mistakes, because this will make people want to take risks, gambles, experiments, and learn and grow. And it's a lot of work, depending on the starting point for many organizations, to do a shift from short-term to long-term thinking. So moving away from pressuring others to deliver, feeling a guilt, I should have accomplished more, saying yes to everything just because they scream loud or you want to be nice, being a feature factory. It's a shift. These are very short-term gains or focuses. It's a shift to creating a sustainable pace for everyone, where you have the courage and energy to have fun and do stuff. It's about celebration of learnings and deliberate precision of saying no. And that's a hard, tough one. And feel proud of the impact we did with all the few things we did say yes to. And then as an organization, take long-term ownership of people's health and growth as well as the technology and data we create for ourselves. Yeah. So a lot of hard work, and now I'm gonna, how do I do this? Not to confuse, gonna center me, go with this one, cool, and then I'm doing some behind the scenes magic here to move myself to the end here. So yeah, to summarize, well, I'm not going to. I'm going to ask you to. So please unmute yourself or type in the chat. What, if anything, made you happy, confused? What would you like? Anything you want me to talk more about? Yeah, personal key takeaways. What will you remember tomorrow from my talk?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
You were talking earlier. The one thing that really struck me is setting up these temporary structures.
Yeah.
As needed. How do you encourage the group or to be that fluid? Is there any techniques to help with that, or?
Well, yeah, I can think of 2. I don't know the context, but one is just do it and then show people and then remove the structure and talk about that, so people may experience it. But in parallel to that, you might also need to just emotionally convince people that this is a thing that can work. But if you want to appeal to the intellectual part of people's brain, you might. I would probably argue that, or explain that, if you create, okay, we have this problem or pain right now, and if we want to, we can create process to fix that problem, or we can try to, I'm gonna do it like this, so, or we can invent meetings or add roles to coordinate or fix or whatnot. We can do that, but these roles are probably going to survive the problem, and then we're going to end up with more managers. The managers versus contributor ratio is just going to get worse, or we might have more people competing for roles. Yeah, so if we go down that route, we're going to add to this the expensive part of the organization, all the bureaucracy that doesn't serve a purpose anymore. Because I can't remember the source of this, but I heard somewhere, and I hope this is true, that the leadership level, the non-contributing part of an organization, grows with 11% per year, more than the people doing the actual work. So do we want more of that? One approach might be, if say, okay, cool, let's add process or a role, but let's put an end date to it, because this problem is fixable and should go away, and that we shouldn't have this need beyond that. Yeah, I don't know if those were good ideas or not.
We did have another question,
Yeah.
Jimmy. Christian asked how to help leadership to shift towards the supportive organization.
I don't know. I'm cheating. I only select to work with companies that want that. So I'm cheating. There are so many more brilliant people working with leadership or agile transformations, helping people overcome their fears, creating courage to try things out. No, well, if you're an agile coach or a coach, or you have the ability to influence them, I would first start with gaining their trust. I wouldn't start with trying to change their mind or attitude towards anything. I would just make them feel that I'm on their side. I understand their struggles, what they want to achieve, and then gradually propose alternative strategies to get there. So patience. But I was at a seminar, and it was Christopher Avery, a guru of mine. He had a seminar, and there was a Q&A afterwards, and he said, "Oh, well, my boss is an idiot, and he doesn't understand agile, and I'm so depressed at work. What should I do? Quit? Change job? Why? You have one shot at life. Move on." But no, don't do that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. The tool I'm using, by the way, is something called OBS Studio. So typically used by gamers and streamers. OBS Studio. It's free to download. Transformation into more supportive posture. How to do that directly? Yeah. Any other comments? Or there any pieces in here that you would like me to elaborate on more?
So I actually had one, Jimmy, and it was on one particular slide that you had where you talked about trust.
Yeah.
Trusting that if someone has an idea that they are worthy to see that through.
Yes.
What about situations where you have this, we'll just say animosity between, like, let's just say sales and developers, where developers want to try new things. They're more interested in things like code quality and the craft of the code. What would you say about in that? Because it goes back, I think, to your comment about autonomy doesn't mean do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. There's some semblance of organization there, but I have seen that where there's just this tug of war where developers want to go and master technical problems, and sales are totally towards, we just need to solve business problems to make more money.
Yeah, I think, yes, that's a really good one. Is it the question about trust? Maybe not. But my advice to teams who feel pressured just to deliver, I tell them that you have long-term ownership of the features you ship and the data you create. So you have long-term ownership of that. That's your job to care for that long-term. And if that means that you need to do some refactoring or future-proofing under the radar in secrecy, you should do so, because that's a responsible thing to do. However, if a team gets stuck in kind of technical excellence, perfection, they just want to add more, make it more and more adaptable or scalable when there's no business need for it, well, then it's gone overboard. Then my strategy there would probably to educate them about the business model, how the company makes money. And when you are pouring time into this, that means we are losing these business opportunities. So I would probably try to help them understand the business perspective of that, and then find a strategy that that's good enough. Because I think you always need some technical, you should have some technical depth. When I cook in my kitchen, I'm not a good chef, by the way, so don't take, that's not the story about this. It needs to be a little bit messy while you cook, right? And then once the dinner is over, that's when you clean up, so it's sparkling for the next day. But if your ambition is to have a sparkling free kitchen all the time, it's going to take you a week to cook the simplest thing. So no. But if the team is really screaming about, no, we need desperately to fix this, otherwise we can't be able, everything we do goes super slow. All right, I trust you, go ahead. But please, as quickly as possible, show me some numbers, because as you notice, I'm not convinced, but I trust you. So prove me wrong. I need to feel I'm on your side here. So I need feedback, I need to see. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. All right, we've got about 4 minutes left. Anything else? Any other questions for Jimmy?
I have a question, Jimmy.
Yeah.
By the way, bought your books, your 2 small books some years back. Right, highly recommended. Really like them. Yeah. With awesome visuals.
Thank you.
Listening to your presentation, I've seen many middle managers that, let's say, would understand your presentation on what they should do and maybe what they shouldn't do. Yeah. Then when it comes to, okay, how to do that exactly, well, that's of course where the difficulty is.
Yes.
How do you help them with, I don't know, giving them examples or?
Roughly this, I would probably have roughly the same approach as the earlier one. I would try to gain their trust by being friends and seeing the problems from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And if people who are resistant to change, quite often resistance to change is due to lack of clarity about the direction we're heading. So I can't see the path. They're just fluffy PowerPoint slides, and I don't get it. And okay, now it's been silent for a month. There's no one talking about it lately. But yeah, so just a lack of clarity about what's going on and the direction, and clear communication. No, we have decided this. So that could be one thing, because then I might go around and clinging to the past and no, this is just a fad, it's going to pass. But another real challenge could be that the people have fear about, so we're going to I have made a career of understanding this system, and I know how to feel valued and appreciated, and I have sharpened this toolbox and skill set to be valuable and appreciated. I don't see how my toolbox is applicable in this future. That's probably going to put me into denial or even kind of sabotage or work against it. So they need help to see how can they still feel valued and appreciated, and what are their bigger goals, what are they trying to accomplish, and help them see new strategies to do that. So instead of managing people and following up and asking status reports, well, create transparency so that you can have a continuous dialogue. So yeah, they probably need to see how, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the best, there's one is of course befriend them and then work with them, and then just take them to for a guest walk or what do you say, to visit other teams. We can do it like that, and look, they are so successful, and look how happy they are, or they do it this or that way. So shine light of close internal success stories. If it's from another place, it's easy to argue that no, that will never work here. So find the bright spots close to you.
Yeah.
You have so
Would you advise job security in that case?
Sorry, can you say again?
Would you advise job security, or so that middle managers know that they can stay and there's time to learn to a new role?
Yeah, they should feel that, because if they well, that's double-edged as well. So if they don't feel that, no, I want to stay, I love the company, and I'm gonna be given time and support to figure this out, then I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna be open for ideas. But if I feel a pressure that, damn it, my colleague got fired because he didn't fit in anymore. He was a culturally misfit, and his old way of doing things or attitude. Okay, he got fired for that. Damn it, there is a pressure for me to change.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
whenever I feel pressure, you get more stupid, right? You're a bad learner, bad listener. Yeah.
All right. Well, great. Well, Jimmy, we could sit here for another hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and just listen to you, gain from wisdom from you. This has been awesome. So I've seen a lot of really good comments in the chat about people already lining up, waiting to watch the recording so they can watch you again and get more. So
Yeah.
appreciate everybody coming. This has been a great session.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jimmy,
So thanks, Jimmy.
we can't tell you enough how appreciative we are, and so glad we finally got this on the schedule. And
Yeah.
I don't know, you'll be hearing from me again for a part 2.
Yeah, I have more topics I love to share about. Thank you all. This marks the beginning of my weekend. It's 7 p.m. in Sweden, so
You have a good weekend, and thanks for joining us late on a Friday night. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.